and welcome to episode 256 of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I was just disturbed by Matty holding his head there. I don't know.
What was
going on?
Oh, it hurts. No, I've got my volume dial behind my.
Oh,
my
it
left
just looked like you were, like when like a secret agent puts their hand on their ear to hear something.
Podcasting.
I was like, can you not hear me all of a sudden?
No, I'm
anyway,
busy.
This is Matthew Figueroa. He's joining as always.
Thank you. I'm busy looking at my levels. I'm like, there's a lot of background noise, and sometimes it happens where I don't think it's my headphones, but sometimes in the past it used to be like back in South Africa and that setup.
Like feedback?
There'd be like a little bit of feedback. You talking coming through my headphones, coming through the
I
microphone.
do recall that.
And now if I just let the levels down, there's still just like a little bit, but I think it might be because I've got the window open. So if you can hear cars going by, I'm very sorry, but it's very hot. I don't think you would hear on Discord because Discord's noise cancelling is actually very good.
That's true
default.
as well.
So,
wait, did you say it's hot?
It's warm. It's like stuffy. It's not.
I thought it was like winter.
Hey, we're
into
autumn,
winter,
but we're not there yet. Okay, although Allah.
So what's hot? Like 20 degrees?
Gosh, you know what? You can just.
I'm asking a legitimate question.
Okay, today there's going to be a max of 23, that's like pretty warm for the UK.
Might as well.
Okay.
Half of London is going to cremate.
Okay, but you know what? But it's funny because I saw. I don't know. It must have been on Instagram. I've got good old Sky News on Instagram, and they serve me
good old Sky News.
They serve me my news in bite-sized chunks as every time I scroll through my feed. And if I'm not wrong, there was a rain warning this weekend. Lots of rain, and then there was another article that basically said we're plunging into cold temperatures from next week. And let me tell you, we go from 23 today to 14 on Wednesday. So. Oof. It's a casual, what's that, 9-degree drop?
Yeah, that's quite feelable, put it that way.
And then next Sunday, back to 21. So it's just like a brief little of autumn and then back to some warm weather. Although, when my sister visited us last year, this is the only reason I remember, she came now in September, and it was hilarious because literally the day she arrived, heat wave. And there was just a heat wave for
when
that
it was
first
bad
week.
last year.
Yeah. In September, this time, we were hitting 30 degrees. So, could happen again. Don't know. It's happened before. Yeah, but I'm not prepared for winter.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the warm weather for the few, the 2 months we had it.
I recall when I was there in November visiting you and the sun went down at 4:30 in the evening and I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And it was cold. It was very cold.
Yeah. Not prepared.
And raining. Shocking. Yeah.
It doesn't rain nearly as much as I thought it would. To completely...
in general.
In general, yeah. Because whenever you think of London, you go, oh, it's the UK. It rains all the time. It rains very often. And it rains, but no more than it did in Johannesburg, I'd say.
Bullshit. I do not believe that.
I'm telling you,
for
Google
a
it.
second.
Google it. In terms of, let's compare what is, how do they measure rain? Like the mills. Compare
average rainfall
in
days,
London and Johannesburg, and let's see.
Wow. It's worth noting that London does see a higher number of rainy days per year with an average of 155 per year.
That's a lie.
That is fucking crazy.
I had nowhere near that number of days of rain last year. I'd put money on it. 150, that's every second or third day. I can tell you now that didn't happen last year.
Well, I mean, you go entire months where it's raining every single day. So.
No, even then, there were very seldom back-to-back weeks of rain. That's I'll die on this hill.
There's no days here. There's just precipitation totals for Johannesburg. Let's see if I can find the equivalent.
Just find the average mils or because you know what, it does rain. Let's say regularly, but even the rain sometimes it's a cough of rain or a very light drizzle. Doesn't count. It's barely rain.
So. That can't be right.
Does it say it's exactly the same? Right. What does it say?
Okay, so Johannesburg, it says annual average rainfall is 713 millimeters per year, mostly concentrated in summer. Yeah, I'm just seeing here, 700. I'm cross-referencing. Some places say 543. I don't know. London is 585.
100%.
So-
I'm telling you.
Okay, but that's just less actual water.
Yeah,
that doesn't
but-
mean actual days.
But even then, like, there'll be days where, okay, look, it'll be raining, okay, but you can go outside and it's, you know, if you go to a restaurant and they've got one of those misters or humidifiers, whatever, that little to cool it down.
Yes, the little
It feels like that, honestly. Sometimes in the rain, you go like, oh, it's drizzling, but you can barely feel it.
It's still rain.
Oh, but it's like barely rain.
This is the same place that's given you your 500 mil thing. It does say that in an average year, one can expect only 200 dry days out of the 365. So that 155 figure, correct.
You know what? I've lived here, yeah, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Did you count every day? Did you keep a logbook?
I should now. I can tell you now, definitely not 155 days of rain since I moved here last year. Maybe.
I'm actually quite stunned that Johannesburg sees more like actual water.
It's because
I found a figure here. Johannesburg is 101 rainy days.
Now think about it. Can you
66%? What are you talking about?
Yeah, but can you think of 100 days of rain in Joburg?
Yes.
Like, yeah,
summer.
it rains hard sometimes, it drizzles, but 101 days, that's a lot.
It's one every 3 point something days.
Yeah, which doesn't feel right. It just, I don't know, it doesn't check out in my head. It's
Math don't math.
Hey, at least you still saw I was right. In terms of the rainfall, Johannesburg gets more rain, like in terms of, you know why? It's because it gets thunderstorms. It's concentrated rain. Why should
Lord. You know, I'd rather take the deluge of rain in 2 hours than the constant mist of rain for like an entire day in my face.
It's barely. We'll see.
I genuinely think when I was there with you last year, every day was raining.
You were here like 2 days with me.
We had the one day where it was sunny and we ran, and then the other day we walked through the whole of London, it was raining the whole time, and then I went to Manchester and it was raining the whole time.
You brought the rain with you. That's all I can say. It's all I can say. You know,
these Londoners, they're just so like
full of shit.
Yeah, 100% full of shit. It was the same when you remember Devin Stanton used to work at Megarom, and he moved, I think, to France or England. I don't know.
France.
I don't know where he is now.
France. Yeah,
I think it was France or England. I just distinctly remember he was in Europe. Maybe he wasn't living in the UK. And I tweeted one time when I was doing transit through the UK again, I was like, wow, it's my third time in London and still haven't seen the sun. He's like, it's always sunny here. I don't know how unlucky you're getting. And I'm like,
that's
what the
not
fuck
true.
is wrong with you people?
It's not always sunny, okay, but it doesn't rain all the time. That is hilarious.
So I should Google how many days are overcast in London. It might be like, how many days are there in the year?
My God, too many. You know what? Whoops.
Sure. It's Checkpoint Chat to talk about meteorology and video games.
Sometimes.
Meteorology is weather, correct?
It's a study of meteors. We all know those.
Your pause is very reassuring.
It's in meteorology. We all know if you want to study the weather, you need to study to be a weatherologist.
Definitely, yeah. That definitely should be a thing offered at university.
Like
Weatherology, yes. You know what else should be studied at university?
Games.
Yeah. Astro Bot.
Astro Bot.
Yeah. A course on how to make a perfect platformer, apparently.
Yes.
You've been playing Astro Bot. I have not just yet. So this is weird because it is just called Astro Bot, correct? But it is like technically the third game that is actually an Astro Bot game. Because there was Astro Bot Rescue Mission in VR. Then there was, what is the one with PS5? Astro's Playroom?
Astro's Playroom, yeah.
And now this is just Astro Bot. It's like straight up just Astro Bots into your veins.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just getting the gameplay up. It was being weird.
Yeah, I'm trying to stall for you.
Oh, you're stalling for time.
Yet.
Oh my god, sorry.
Tell me about this cute little robot mascot.
Astro Bot, man. Okay, so you played Astro's Playroom, right? Of course. Who did it?
Fantastic game.
Game of the year when the year the PlayStation launched. We can all agree. What did you think of that game? Did you not play that and think, I'm going to lead the witness here? Did you not play that and think, damn, this game is so short. I wish it was longer. I just want more of this.
Yes, exactly that. How did you know, Judge?
Okay, Judge. I've only played for, I'd say, an hour and a half, 2 hours. But Astro Bot is just Astro's Playroom on a bigger scale. It's just more levels. There are new things to do, new gadgets, I guess, or new, platforming tricks or tools to use as you make your way through these levels. It's just Astro's Playroom, but on a large scale. There's just more of it, and that is the best news ever, because Astro's Playroom 100%. Was honestly, I think every person who bought the PlayStation played that because it came, bundled with the PlayStation, and you don't have to play it, but if you boot up your PlayStation, it's there, you should play it 100%. And I think everyone who did actually give it the time, just a short hour or two it took to finish it, was blown away, because it was, for all intents and purposes, a hardware showpiece for what the DualSense could do at the time, whatever. But it was really just a taste, it was it's a short little experience. But then it was also unexpectedly packaged into this really cute platforming game. Not only are you using the controller to do these, it's not only is it showing wow, look at the pressure triggers and the vibration and all of that, but it's actually wrapped in this really, unexpectedly suitable, competent platformer. And I think the studio have just, honestly, the brief was, hey, that was well received, can you just make a bigger game? So all these years later, more of that. Years later, that's what we've got. And it just makes me wish that we had more games that really put the DualSense to use like this game does, because it really, it just uses it in such imaginative ways. And I know you're watching the footage now, this little monkey climbing trick we saw in Astro's Playroom. But believe me,
I recall that, yeah.
This is just a level they've obviously taken, they've kept that, trick, if I call it that gimmick. But they've played a number of other levels where there's just brand new things, just different things to do with the controller, all different cool tools. And then not only that, it's got that good thing of it's wrapped up in PlayStation nostalgia. You're out here rescuing a whole lot of bots that come that are inspired by other games or referencing other games. So it's just a good time. All I can say is the opening hours I've played have been, we discussed this on the Discord this week, where game's good when it makes you goofy smile. And this game has had me goofy smiling, honestly, the whole time. From the moment the credits, the game started, it's just joy. It's just so good.
And I feel like, we play a lot of great games year in, year out, but I think that feeling that you're describing is a lot more rare nowadays, because a lot of games are very, I'm not complaining, but very serious, very cinematic, dramatic. The idea of just a pure, unadulterated joy from a game is something that I think has been quite exclusive to your platforming mascots, like your Marios and stuff like
100%,
that.
So,
yeah, for PlayStation to have one of those again, considering back in the day that was your Crash Bandicoot, which is no longer even a PlayStation property. It's kind of remarkable that in a 2024, this is the biggest game Sony is putting out this year, and it is just a platformer mascot game.
And it's funny because we joke Astro's Playroom, it's the game of the year that year. What is it, 2020 or whatever? This game, unironically, again, this, I get it. Still early days, but this could be a game of the year contender, just from what I've seen, just the polish and love and just everything that's gone into it. It's just such a wholesome, great package. But yeah, again, it's early days. We were talking before we started recording, it's about 8 hours long, maybe longer if you 100% it, which if you want to talk raw value, like, okay, it's not an RPG length game, but I think if it keeps up this momentum that I've had in the first hour and a half, 2 hours, for that duration, like, worth it. Really, really so good.
And I think, the first, the demo that came with the PlayStation obviously was there to kind of show off the capabilities, especially of the controller, because, I mean, the DualSense at the time was very novel and having its analog triggers and whatever. But I think a lot of games haven't really utilized that in a big way. I still think Astro's Playroom is the best example of how it can be used. And has that been like, I know in the footage now you've got the monkey thing, which is quite similar to what was in Astro's Playroom, although I can tell it's slightly different.
There's different.
Like what other things have you seen that make use of the controller in a cool way?
So there's a level, there's actually been 1 or 2 levels where you get a dog on your back, and if you hold R2, it's got that pressure, like it gives you resistance, but if you push through it, you launch as a jetpack straight forward.
Oh, cool.
It just feels satisfying to do. And there's another level where maybe you'll remember, I couldn't remember, but in Astro's Playroom, were there ever like boxing gloves?
I couldn't. Not that I recall.
Okay, so then that's a new thing as well, where there's a level where you get, it's for all intents and purposes, boxing gloves where, each shoulder button is a punch. And
that's cool.
You just run around the level punching stuff.
That sounds cool. That sounds great. I'm in.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's the same thing where it's not just the inputs you give the controller, not just what you do to the controller, right? Like it's still got the thing of when you running over a glass surface, you can hear it through the controller audio, and then you can, quote unquote, feel it. Just the subtle vibration changes, like whether you're running through over glass, through sand, through grass, whatever. It's just you can feel it, and it's little details like that where you think, shit, the PlayStation's been out for what, like 4 years now. I think it's going on 4 years.
Actually, yeah.
And I can't tell you how many games have put that level of love into the DualSense. Like, there are some exceptions where a good example is like the recent Star Wars Outlaws. Like, I'm surprised by how much that does actually use a controller. But even then, it's like barely doing it how Astro games do. And then there's also like Returnal's the only other PlayStation exclusive where I'm like, yeah, that had like 1 or 2 specific instances of using the DualSense, but there's been nothing else like that since. So it's just weird that you've got this hardware. It feels good to have it in the game. Like, I can tell I haven't read any reviews, but I'd bet money that 90% of them will go on about, wow, the controller like really makes the game more immersive, or it's part of the experience. And like, I get it, if you're doing a multi-platform game to put resources into making the controller part of it or whatever, I'm just surprised that more haven't. Even Sony themselves, like a lot of their first party games, if I think Horizon Forbidden West, like they didn't really use the controller as well as I thought it would.
Yeah, agreed. It's, in hindsight, it's maybe they were lucky that they didn't go that approach, because a lot of those games have come to like PC, and if they had a lot of mechanics tied to the DualSense, that starts becoming a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why I don't think we'll see Astro Bot on the PC like ever. I just think, like you're saying, it's so deeply coupled to the DualSense that you could probably put it on PC and then require the DualSense, but like that immediately cuts your market like so much,
Yeah.
But you're right, like games like Spider-Man and Horizon don't really, they do the things with the DualSense that you expect, like resistance on a web swing or on a bow draw or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Returnal and I'd say Ratchet and Clank did probably the most with it. Yeah, just like altering the way you interact with like weapons in that game, but still to no degree that Astro does. I think your example of like glass and grass is something I'd forgotten about from Astro's Playroom. I distinctly remember a level there where there was rain, and you could, like, the combination of hearing the rain from the controller and the subtle vibration on the controller made it feel like actual rain, which was like incredible.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they give so much focus to that. They fine tune it so precisely that, there's a lot of retention there, which other games just don't. They don't have the time to really, do that.
But it's funny because even last night, Lenska was just chilling, scrolling on a phone. And when it happened where I ran from it was like a wooden surface to like a metallic surface. And that's where it triggered. I was like, oh yeah. Like, I forgot that they do this with the controllers. So I said to her, just feel it. And she took the controller and she just started playing. She's like, wow, this feels so nice. Which it is.
I'm actually kind of hoping that I can get Shani to play this as well. Because it's like, it's meant to be a breezy platform. It's not meant to be like overly complex or anything like that. So.
It's just super tactile. It's very satisfying, honestly. The only thing I will say, if you want to talk about difficulty, it's not like... It's not a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring, but it is still something that it's a one-hit kill.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
which it was in Astro's Playroom as well, where you get hits, you die. And there's a lot of checkpoints, don't get me wrong, but I think it can be a bit frustrating. Like I fought a boss already, and there are obviously more bosses ahead. And that's a thing of, if you die at any point in, the typical 3-phase approach, whatever, like I do think you have to restart from scratch, which might be off-putting to some people, like a Shani or Lenska who don't necessarily play games all the time. But maybe there's accessibility features that I don't know.
Yeah, I was about to ask. I wonder if there's stuff there to make it a bit easier.
But that aside, like I think this game's accessible to anyone, like anyone and everyone, whether you're a newcomer or a platforming veteran. Like there's a lot of joy to be found here, honestly. It's just super satisfying. I'm
just enjoying watching you like
just
climbing with the monkey. I mean, it is similar to the one in Playroom.
It is. It's
cool that the monkey's like on your back. It's not like you are controlling a different character.
And this one, I think I'm sure you've watched hitting the ground. I don't think you could do that in Astro's Playroom. It like shakes the ground and things happen. It's great though. I'm very excited to see. Because like I finished the first of 5. I think there's 5 overworlds. I finished the first one. I mean, even there, I've already seen so many cool little neat tricks and mechanics. I'm very eager to see what else I have ahead. There's a level I played last night, and I won't say it for spoiler reasons, but the little trick of it, I was just like, this is incredible. I'll talk to you when you further in the game. I'm like, have you played this level? Honestly, one of the coolest levels I've played. Like,
is there a little room? I remembered in Playroom, there was that room where you unlocked like 3D models of different PlayStation hardware, which was kind of cool. And then all your bots were just like running around there as well. Like a hub.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There's that on a much bigger scale.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, you basically have I'll just call it like your hub, but it's the same thing where all the bots you've seen me collecting in the game now, they end up going to that main planet, and as you play the game, that planet, like that area, starts populating with things you've collected, and it starts being repaired.
So it is similar.
It's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that because it was like a little museum of Sony hardware, which I thought was quite neat.
It's hilarious because the basic premise of this game, I mean, this is like opening scene, so I'm not considering it spoilers, but you fly in your PlayStation 5 ship through the galaxy.
Of course.
And then
who doesn't have one? Your
PlayStation ship gets destroyed, basically. Okay, and the whole point of the game is you putting your PlayStation 5 back together. Just like, it is hilarious. It's when you think about it, like, Sony really be making me play a game about like rebuilding their console.
So Astro's Playroom is basically their warranty program.
100%, without a doubt.
Fantastic.
But it is funny because
they found a way to monetize it. It's great.
Like, Sony definitely struck gold with Crash Bandicoot back in the PlayStation 1 era. And
yes.
But over the years I feel like Crash kind of just became disassociated with PlayStation for numerous reasons. Got acquired by Activision, etc. Mm-hmm. Now it's multi-platform. Mm-hmm. It's really nice to see that Sony have now seemingly nailed. They've got a mascot like a Mario again. Like I feel that Astros has definitely ticked that box, and I don't see them not making more games in future. Like this, I'm convinced this will be their Mario now, where we will every 2-3 years get an Astro Bot 2, 3, whatever it is, and they'll keep experimenting in this, with this IP.
I just love to a degree that Sony kind of listened, because like, they packaged the original Astro Bot with the PlayStation, but it was through like a lot of people like, wow, this is so much better than what a tech demo should be. This is an actual game that I would play a bigger one of.
Just make it a game,
Yeah, I think they could have like completely not heard that or ignored it, and we would have never got an Astro Bot 2. So, especially when like, what was the studio in Japan? Was it Team Japan that closed down not long after the PlayStation 5 launched? And that was like, okay, well, Bloodborne's not happening. The potential for another Astro Bot seemed quite limited, because now, would Team Asobi still survive that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool that this exists, and that I hope it just sells well. Like ultimately, we talk about it, and there's a lot of positivity around it on social media, but it needs to sell. I don't think it needs to sell like obscenely well, considering a limited budget and limited team size that made this. But I hope that people show up in the way that they're talking about showing up.
Yeah, 100%. Just want to call attention. You ever seen what's happening in my game now?
There's so many little blue sapphires jumping around. It's cool.
I found a treasure room. Did you see what is in the treasure chests? It was a PlayStation. I
did not
trophy.
Actually. I missed that. Was it a PlayStation what?
Trophy. It's so good.
Oh God. An actual trophy.
An actual golden trophy. It's so meta. It's
and just, did you get a trophy for finding the trophy?
No.
God
maybe
damn it.
I should have hit it. I don't know.
At one job.
But I'm telling you, there will be. This is a game I'll definitely platinum, because there will be.
I've seen people already putting out platinums there. It doesn't seem to be a super difficult one.
I think it's like Astro's Playroom, where it is you'll finish the game and go, oh, let me just go wrap up a couple of trophies. But I have popped 1 or 2 trophies, but it is like, do this on that level, where it's just a random thing. So I'm very keen to keep playing this game. It's speaking my language.
What's your I know it would be somewhat a spoiler, but what's your favorite cameo so far?
The block you. So we obviously get a Solid Snake surprise.
That's
but
cool.
One I didn't expect is you this is also early levels. You collect Psycho Mantis as one of the collectibles. I was like, what?
Was there a Psycho Mantis like bot?
Yeah, so in the game you're collecting a whole lot of bots, but some of those bots you collect through each level are cameos, and some of the levels you play through are inspired by the cameos you are collecting, like very loosely. So it's funny, I picked up the Psycho Mantis bot. I was like, no way, straight in the childhood, okay. And then, you know what else I've brought back in this game? Best feature. You remember the little gacha machine where you put money in and you pull?
Oh, yes, you get the little balls.
You get collectibles. You get collectibles for each of the characters you pick up in the level. So for Psycho Mantis, for one of the gacha balls I got was a PlayStation 1 with a TV, because obviously referencing the gimmick of you had to swap the memory card to beat him.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, this is just for someone who's been with PlayStation from the beginning. It is unreal to see that level of like callback, because not everyone's going to get that. So I think a lot of people are like, who is this guy? Like, oh, it's Solid Snake and some random guy. But if you're like, oh my God, like that is me as a kid going, how do I beat this bloody boss? And then you go, oh, yeah, you got to swap the memory, the controller port. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you found Psycho Mantis and he just did the thing where he like moves his hands and the controller like vibrated in tune with that? That would have blown my fucking mind.
So good.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Damn, that's awesome. And that little detail, for a villain who only appears in a 25-year-old Metal Gear Solid game. Yeah. If they put that much detail into him, I assume it's going to be the same for a lot of the cameos. So that's really cool.
There's some stuff I've played that I won't say because I want you to enjoy the game, but there's just a lot of love and detail. It's stupid good fun, and I'm very keen to keep playing more.
Can't wait till you get to the end and the credits just announces Bloodborne 2, and it'll be great.
Whoa. Yeah. You collect the hunter, then another hunter. You're like, wait, who's this? And they go, that's right, Bloodborne 2.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, can't believe this.
Astro Bot just gets plumped into the hunter's dream, and it's like coming 2025. You're just like, oh damn.
I'm there for it. Don't get me wrong. Good God. Yeah, but Astro's Playroom. Astro Bot. Sorry, I'm keep getting
Astro Bot. Just self-titled Astro Bot.
It's real good.
Very, very cool. I'm very keen to give it a go soon. Do you want to talk about Quidditch or Star Wars first?
Let's talk Quidditch, because that is the
Quidditch.
The newer.
I've at least played some of this. You've played a bit more of it. Not sure if this will be full-on review just yet, or if it'll be like be just I don't even know how much more I will play of this. So I didn't know that. Okay, so firstly, this is called Quidditch Champions, correct?
It's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's.
You got to get the name in there.
Got to get the trademark in there.
Yeah.
It came out yesterday,
a couple days ago,
Thursday. It's out on PS Plus as well, so already probably an easier sell than Concord.
Okay.
Yeah, it's out on PS Plus. It is predominantly a single player, but definitely multiplayer focused take on the popular Harry Potter soccer game. Listen, it's soccer on brooms.
But
FIFA on brooms. Did you ever play the old? There was an old Quidditch game that came out when the movies were like in their heyday.
No.
I played a lot of that, and that was cool. But that was way more simple than this.
Okay, I'm glad you've played it, because I know that there was a Quidditch game like in the early 2000s, I'd say, which not played, not seen. I don't even know what it looks like.
Yeah, that one was very simple. It was like you only controlled your chasers, who are the people who like throw around the quaffle or the ball. And then you would have like special abilities that would charge, that would let you like take people out as the who are the people that knock the other ball around?
The beaters,
yeah. So you'd have like a little cutscene showing your beater like absolutely annihilate someone or something, and then you'd have like team special moves where you'd score like 3 goals in a row or something like that. It was way more simplistic. It was way more like arcadey. This is very much like simulator. Well, not simulator, but like it's trying to recreate the actual feel of a Quidditch game, which is, I think, both good and bad. So yeah, firstly, if you're watching the footage, there is a lot happening on screen at any given time.
And this is a multiplayer game as well. I'm playing with other people. Oh, so
you're playing with 2 other people then?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically when you first introduce into this game, you're given like very extensive tutorials on each of the player roles.
Yeah.
So you've got the chaser, the beater, the keeper, and then the seeker. So chaser moves the ball around. Beaters use I forgot what the other ball's called.
Bludger, I think.
Bludger. They can damage other players by hitting that around. Your keeper is just kind of your goalkeeper. And then the seeker is the one that catches the snitch when it appears on the field.
Yeah.
But if you're playing alone, you kind of have to... The game plays obviously around you depending on what role you've chosen, but you're kind of encouraged to swap between the roles quite dynamically. And you can do that pretty easily, but with the pace that the game goes, I find it very confusing to switch between like the chaser and the keeper and then the beater, and then if the snitch arrives, like balancing that with still scoring goals and still finding the snitch. I assume when you're playing online, when you're playing 3v3, it's slightly more manageable.
Yeah, so if you don't know Quidditch, this is going to be very confusing.
This is going to be very confusing from the outset.
I'm going to talk as if you've either read Harry Potter or watched the movies and you know the rules of the game. So forgive us for not explaining, because I think it would take a while to.
Imagine trying to explain football every time you talk about FIFA. That's kind of the gist that you're getting here.
You've got it. It's 3 chasers, 2 beaters, 1 seeker, 1 keeper. Yeah, but the rules in this actual game are different to the Quidditch in the book itself anyway. What was the question? I led myself astray.
I wanted to find out. So I find the game a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, sorry.
Single player, yeah.
Yeah, so when you play multiplayer, it's a lot more manageable, because when you queue up for a game, you can say that you either don't mind playing any role, or you particularly want to play a specific role that's paired with a chaser. So you always have a chaser as part of what you're playing as online. So you can be...
That makes sense, because there's 3 of them.
Yeah, so you can be a chaser and a beater, or a chaser and the keeper, or a chaser and the seeker. So it makes it a lot more manageable, because then it is, I'm just tabbing between one or the other. Not trying to figure out like, oh, I should be doing this and this and this, whatever. I think it's such an interesting thing, because like I was saying to you before we started recording, before playing this game, having not played the game that you played in the early 2000s, I couldn't quite wrap my head around how this would work as an actual game, purely because, Quidditch exists in the books and the movies, and it exists, and that's fine because it's a fictional world and a fictional sport. How does it actually play out? Like, I couldn't quite think, how do you manage all these roles and still keep the scoring fair? And to your point earlier, it works and it also doesn't work. It works because I feel that they've actually nailed the mechanics and the feel of flying around a broom. Like, it is fun to fly around the broom. It is fun to pass the ball, and then when you're going for the goal, there's 3 hoops. You obviously have to try dupe the keeper, so you are panning left and right, trying to throw them astray, and then you launch the ball and it goes in, or they save it. It gets that right 100%. Like, I'm actually genuinely surprised by how well that's translated into a game. But to your point, there is a lot going on. I've played enough now to know what all the different icons and the markers mean. I know you're saying like it's like information overload. There's just so much going on. Like, I know what everything means now, but even then, it's still, if I'm playing alone, it's difficult to say like, oh, you should play as a chase and then swap to your beater and then swap. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. You could. What I've been doing, I play as the chasers. I score until the snitch appears, and then I switch to my seeker. And those are the only 2 roles I've really been playing in single player. Because it feels like, even that as a gameplay change, typically in Quidditch, in the books, it's 2 beaters, right? Who their whole job is to try hit the bludger or tackle other players off their brooms. They've reduced it to 1 here, which I understand for balancing purposes and to have a nice even number, so you can split the roles. But it feels weird being a beater, unless I'm just very bad at being a beater. It takes quite a bit to get a single player off their broom, or to know enough to go, oh shit, like the snitch is out, let me find the seeker to make their life hell. It's very difficult to know like where any player is at any given time. I feel like there could almost be like more icons or like some other way to let you know, like, oh, the seeker's down on that side of the pitch. If you're gonna go make their life difficult, that's where they are. It feels like that it's not very clear. I
100% agree with that.
So it was, what I was gonna say is that maybe the game could have benefited from 2 beaters to really make it more challenging for other players. Because even when you're flying around, if a bludger comes towards you, there's like a little prompt
dodge icon.
There's a little meter that fills, and once you get the timing right, I'm like, you're unlikely to get hits ever. So I think it makes being a beater a bit of like a null thing. Like, well, why would you play that role, especially online, if people are just going to dodge your stuff, unless you're particularly good at flying and like able to just physically tackle, with your broomstick, which you can do.
Well, that's another aspect that I think doesn't work that well, is the whole tackling mechanic. Like, as a chaser, you can intercept other chasers and like tackle them to steal the quaffle from them. I find like it's really easy to whiff that. Because you're working within a 3D space, it's very, very difficult to actually time your tackles correctly. And if you miss a tackle because you're flying towards an opposing player, you might as well just give up that point, because you'll never catch up to them. So it feels weird, and you're right. Like, as a beater, you're told, okay, well, you can summon the bludger or the bludger, whatever that ball is, but that thing's on a cooldown, and like you said, you can knock it to a player and they'll take damage, and if they're holding the quaffle, they'll drop it. But like, to actually to daze a player properly, takes quite a few hits. The cooldown on that ability is quite high, so you have to like seek out that ball on the field if you can't just summon it. And then the alternative is flying into other players and tackling them, which is something they teach you in the tutorial, but I find that so finicky and difficult. It just, I don't feel like it works. So I think your idea of sticking to the Seeker and the Chaser is probably the best, because I find those two roles are the most fleshed out gameplay wise. I think the Keeper is a complete waste of time.
I played the Keeper online, and it is like they have a thing called, as a Keeper you have an ability called Playmaker, I think, which the idea
we can set the hoops.
Yeah, the idea is that you're all the way at the back line, you can't leave the goalposts, you get pulled back after a certain radius. So when the ball's past the halfway line, or and the enemy's half, what you can do is you can help your teammates by doing a Playmaker, whatever the ability is called, where you can basically place rings along the field which your teammates can fly through to fill up their stamina bar so they can keep flying fast, which is fine, but that's it. It's like you protect the goal and then you do that. And if in single player, that's fine. If you want to just swap to the Keeper, like you said, if you whiff a tackle, for example, and you go, oh shit, they're going to go to my goal, you swap to the Keeper, no problem. If you're playing online and you're just a Chase and a Keeper, it can be a bit like,
I don't even find that I'd switch to my Keeper in single player, because I just
found
don't think they
better
work.
Than I am.
Yeah, it's also just like, I think scoring is way too easy for the Keeper to make an impact. Like, you can drift and duke as a Chaser so effortlessly, so that you can change which goal you're aiming at so quickly that a Keeper just can't react in time. They move too slowly.
Look, you can dive, but it's very easy to be led astray. Like, as a Chaser, it's so easy for me to just wiggle my thumbstick that I am doing this.
Exactly.
So like the Keeper's got a 1 in 3 chance of actually choosing the right hoop.
And you have to like slowly glide between those hoops to even make an interception. So it's weird. I just think the Keeper doesn't work that well at all. And so it like diminishes their role, especially in single player. So you're just sticking to 2 roles. And then if you're playing online and you happen to get the Keeper or the Beater, it just like greatly reduces your impact on the game. I don't know. It's odd. Like I think you're right. They have translated the game as well as they could have. I think I don't see how else you could do this, because it is a complicated. Firstly, it's a very complicated game to translate into a video game form, especially with the sort of movement that you have. So I think they've done a good job there. It does feel good to fly around on these brooms. Like, I would take a broom racing game any day with the whole drift mechanic they've got going here. It feels pretty sublime. But I just think it's too simple for a very competitive game online. I think catching the snitch is way too easy. It's just flying through hoops, and scoring goals between the 2 Chasers is just like, well, did you miss your tackle or not? And that really determines whether you've scored a goal or not. So I'm curious to see like how high level some of the play can go, but it's I just don't know how the legs that this game has on it.
It's so strange, because I look at this game and I think like, shit, I think there's a pretty high skill ceiling. Like, you could play this game and you could get really good, honestly. Given how complicated moving in the 3D space can be, you can get really good at like tackling players and dodging and doing all of those things. But like, will people stick that out? I don't know. Honestly, I don't. And there are things to keep. Like another thing that comes to mind. So as you play, you get experience and you unlock skill points, which lets you unlock different abilities, or not abilities, I suppose, passive things.
Did you upgrade your broom, isn't it?
No, so it's both. So you can upgrade your broom and you can upgrade your players. So like, for example, I can, as my Seeker, I can put ability points into letting my snitch meter fill faster.
Okay.
Which is all good and well, but then I wonder, like, if I'm new to the game and whatever, I'm playing online, if I'm playing against another Seeker who has a higher, snitch fill rate than I do, that's just like straight up a a competitive advantage. Like it's not, it's, you know, there's a nuance to it where there are certain abilities. So like with the chaser, for example, there are things that's like you can, you know, if you pass the ball to the Quaffle player, they'll get a speed boost for 3 seconds. I'm like, that's nice, but it's not game breaking, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Whereas, yeah, if you're watching the footage, in order to catch the snitch, you have to stay as close to it as possible so that meter underneath it fills. And then when it hits blue, that's when you can catch it. So it's honestly, it's like a minute and a half of you following this thing as close as you can. But if I'm doing that with an enemy seeker and they've got like a 10% buff or like even a 5% improvement, I'm like, that's just a straight up huge competitive advantage.
They could start seeking the snitch like much later than you and still catch it.
It'd still be fine, yeah. And the thing is, like, if you miss it, it's only 30 points. Unlike the book, the game doesn't end, but it's pretty devastating given that a game ends when somebody hits 100 points or the 7-minute timer runs out. The snitch only appears twice in the game. From every game I've played, it only appears twice. If you miss it even once, it's like, shit, that's quite a swing.
It's a big disadvantage.
Yeah, it's only 30 points, but because I don't have my seeker leveled up the same way the enemy does, like, oh no, I'm at a disadvantage now. So
it reminds me almost like an ultimate. It's got the potential to swing a game back in favor of another team, but yeah, I mean, if you have these passives that can give you an edge either way, then you kind of lose that balance to the game completely.
Yeah. So it's like if you coming to the game and you're playing against a team who just have a higher account level with more passives unlocked, like it's just straight up, I don't know, there's something strange to me that it isn't just like a single player only thing, and I'm pretty sure it carries over to multiplayer. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I don't actually know, but that is my one question. But it's sorry, to go back to the actual game, it's interesting that like that I feel that they have ticked all the right boxes. I'm like, I don't know what else you could do, because, you know, you play the game, you get experience, you unlock you get like experience when playing, you unlock currency to upgrade your broom. Like you said, you can buy a whole lot of different brooms, and they themselves have a whole lot of attributes. So there's a level of depth on that front. You get your skill abilities, which you can put into different roles across all of them: keeper, seeker, chaser, beater. And there's a whole lot of cosmetics. Like I think if you're a fan of Harry Potter, what's quite cool is that there's, you know, all the characters are there. You can get them as skins. You can get like a Hermione skin, a Ron skin, whatever. And to my surprise, it doesn't seem that you can spend real money to get them. It's all through playing the game that you get the currency you need to unlock them.
Yeah, you're right. So I didn't see like a buy this currency
which just
tab.
surprised me, like not in a bad way. I was just like, oh, I would have thought a game like this would have outright been monetized because people would want to just straight up buy these skins, you know? So like that's cool. And then unrelated, another surprising thing, you can obviously play, not obviously, but you can play through the House Cup with all the Hogwarts houses. You can do Triwizard Cup, which is obviously, you know, like the fourth book, the 3 schools, yeah. And you can do a World Cup, which has 16 teams, and South Africa is one of those teams, which I did not expect.
Hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Flying
on vuvuzelas.
Yeah. So flying on vuvuzelas in your South African robes, very cool. It's a nice little surprise I didn't expect.
Because I assume there's like themed stadiums for each of the teams. If ours is just in like the fucking Kruger Park, I'll be both mad and impressed.
No,
like just lions running on the bottom of the pitch or something.
I wish. No, so there's just a World Cup stadium. It's not like themed.
Boo.
Yeah.
Imagine it was like Soccer City or something. That'd be sick.
That'd be really cool. So look, it's interesting because this game's just very middling. Like I appreciate it for what it is and how they've translated it to a game, but it is complicated. There's a lot of depth, and then there's also a lack of depth, which is so like it's such a weird thing to even just say because it doesn't make sense. But that is what it is. Yeah, it is fun though. Like I do wonder how long people play it for. At what unless you a hardcore fan that you're out here to grind all the way to the max account level and unlock all the cosmetics, like how long will you keep playing the campaigns and then online versus other players? Because I do wonder, you can search per, like, for the role you want to play, right? But who's actively picking keeper role, for example? I don't know. Will I get to a point where I can't find a game? But the fact that it's on PlayStation Plus, I actually forgot about that. So there will be a pretty solid player base from the get-go.
Yeah. And I think, Harry Potter is such a big property. We saw with Hogwarts Legacy. It was huge.
I think the name itself, there are people, even and I don't mean this in a negative way, but even like non-gamers, casual gamers, who will pick up this game because, like, I love Harry Potter. I want to play Quidditch.
100%, yeah.
So,
especially now that it's on PS Plus. If they've already got a subscription, like, why not? Yeah, I think that's quite smart. I have realized that real life Quidditch would be an impossible spectator sport. There's no fucking way you can follow what's going on in this game.
Yeah, it's funny because in the book, even if we want to get into the nitty gritty, the whole thing of, the game goes on until the snitch is found, and then the snitch is 150 points. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of points. Like, why even bother playing? Just everyone look for the snitch. That's it.
Literally, just have the whole team looking for the snitch.
And you know what? Yeah. Forget everything else. Just help your seeker get the snitch, and you'd win the game.
Yeah,
but
100%.
that's the magic of it being a fictional game. Like, it makes sense in that build. As an actual game in Owl, like, I think it kind of works with the changes it has, but there's still, it's not 100% there.
I do think, like you said, it's been contextualized into a functioning game quite well. It's been balanced in a way that I think makes a lot of sense. And I think, if you dedicate enough time to really getting your head around the movement and the intricacies of at least 2 of the 4 roles, then you'll probably have a good time. Yeah. I just think, it's a bit of a pity that the other 2 roles are so diminished and not that fun to play. Yeah. Sure. Cool. Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. Go broom yourself. I don't know. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I don't even know what that means.
Neither do I. Star Wars Outlaws. That is the next. You spoke about it a bit last.
Yep.
Yeah, last time we spoke, you had just started it. I had just kind of started it. I've played a lot more of this game.
You've played a lot more now, so
you finished it, if I'm not mistaken.
I've rolled credits. I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on this game, though, because I think last time, you had kind of just started it. I didn't even know if you had started it when we spoke last time.
I was still on the Canto Blight heist, which is basically the introduction to the game. Yeah. I've played a lot more now. I've spent a lot of time on the game's first planet that you have access to. I've only now gotten to the icy planet, Kujimi, I think it's called. Kujimi. Funny enough, that was the one from the last movie, Rise of Skywalker. I think they were on Kujimi. I like this game a lot. I think it is nowhere near perfect. It has got so many issues. I think the stealth is very rudimentary. I think the shooting still lacks a bit of punch. But I really enjoy playing it. I can't really explain it. And I think it comes down to the world. I think the Star Wars as a world has been so well realized in this game that it's just a joy to kind of be in it. The planets are really cool. The sort of seedy criminal underworld is really well represented here, and it's just a joy to be in that world. Like, you are definitely walking through cantinas and overhearing conversations that make sense within this world, and that you don't hear in a lot of games or even movies, because they're so focused on the grander picture of Jedi and good versus evil, where this is more people that are actually living in this galaxy, which is a very cool change of pace. So I think from that aspect, that's what's grabbed me. I love taking on the little side missions. I think the side missions are pretty fun. They're very reserved for a Ubisoft open world game. I think there's none of that mission marker vomit on the maps, and it feels quite natural to go to a cartel contract giver and take on a contract that is like easy or difficult, or you only have one shot to do it. I love, being able to fly into space and dock on an Imperial station and basically fuck around with, stormtroopers, like go and steal Imperial secrets and fly back. And it feels like a heist, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I also love that they call Imperial stormtroopers imps, which I've never heard before.
Same.
It's cool. It's just fun being in this world. It's fun spending a lot of time just doing stuff, exploring it. And I think that's why I spent a lot of time on the first planets. I was just kind of mucking about. I was like, oh, I want to go do this, I want to do that, and not really focusing on the main story. So yeah, it's fun. I fully understand that it is not perfect and there's so many things that could be fixed. It is, I think it was Kotaku who, they had a headline that said it was like a what was it was like a perfect a masterpiece disaster or something like that. Was their headline. It was basically like, this game is fundamentally like a bit fucked, but it's also just like perfect as a Star Wars thing, and I think I agree with that. It's good. It's a perfect 7 out of 10 game. I can't.
It's I'm there with you, where I wholeheartedly acknowledge that it's not perfect. There are problems. Like, there are some big problems with this game, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I can't tell you why, and I think if I were to try to explain it, might be because, to your point, it is a fully realized open world Star Wars game where it feels like I'm playing through the original trilogy, which is where it's set. I think Darren has pointed out that it's also got to do a lot with the, how people are dressed, the hairstyles, that sort of thing. Just in terms of aesthetic, it completely nails that. And there are moments where, again, to your point, storming an Imperial base, attacking an Imperial base. I had a moment where I was just on one of those random outposts, like one of the big old bases on a planet. And when you go indoors, it's got that Star Wars feel. It's like these long, shiny corridors. Okay. And at a moment where I got spotted, I was like, oh God, like I'm gonna have to fight my way out of here. And I was just shooting stormtroopers. And I immediately was that kid again, watching the first Star Wars movie, watching like Luke and Han and them just on the Death Star shooting down that corridor, and I was like, oh my God, like it just makes me think of being that kid going, man, it'd be so cool to have one of those blasters just shooting down a corridor. And it was that. So I was like, holy shit, it just nailed that. 10 out of 10 nostalgia. I think that's why I'm liking it so much. But even that,
it captures that power fantasy really well, even though it makes you feel way too powerful in most cases. It's still fun.
It's funny because it's it's the Empire. No one fucks with the Empire unless you KVS. You can do whatever you want.
You can literally go into a base, get caught, and just absolutely murder everyone.
So it's got problems, but the story it tells and how it fits into the wider Star Wars universe, like this will never happen, but it's like they could have in the 70s, 80s, even now, just make a show about this character existing, and it would make sense. You're like, of course there's a whole smuggling side to Star Wars with all these characters doing their things alongside Luke and them trying to take on the Empire. And they do dabble that actually, where there are conversations Kay has with the Rebel Alliance going like, well, who do you think you are, trying to just you prioritize yourself and kind of ignore everything else and everyone else. There's conversations like that happening, and you go, like maybe the Rebel Alliance is it's not so black and white. It's a lot of gray areas going on here. It's just
I think that's where like Andor plays around a lot, but it's still
100%,
it's not the same because Andor is still occupied with the greater fight, whereas Outlaws is more, it's about KVS. It's not like, oh, she is going to suddenly become a hero. Well, okay, I haven't finished the story, but it's not like this is suddenly going to turn into a Rebels versus Imperial story. This is very much her journey, and her just trying to get out from this like almost insurmountable debt that she's found herself in, which is cool. I think there's space for so many of the stories in Star Wars. The problem is that I think there's this expectation that everything needs to tie into the greater lore. And I think that's with that expectation, you really limit yourself to the stories you can tell. So,
No, it's wild because the game does have problems, like if you want to dive into them. But I've really enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed playing it. And like, I've rolled credits and my attention's elsewhere for now, but I'm like, maybe I should go back and do some of the side quests, or mess around with some of the factions more, because I did mess around in the planets, but as typically happens when I'm pressed for time, I'll start mainlining, because I knew there's a whole lot of other review stuff coming in, but I would 100% go back, not to platinum the game necessarily, but just to be in this world and just muck around doing scoundrel things, flying around, even like, I know we spoke not on the podcast, but about the space stuff. I think like the space combat is rudimentary. It's not very deep. Like, you shoot ships, you lock on your rocket, that's it. But the act of flying through space, it just feels good, and it looks good as well.
I mean, it looks phenomenal.
Oh my god, like Starfield, please look at this game, how you could have just, it's all smoke and mirrors, I know. But how this game launches you into space and it's a loading screen, I'm very aware of that, But it's not like I get on my ship.
It's the feeling that it's seamless.
It is
like you're not yanked out of the experience.
No, you sit down, you go, cool, I'm going to launch into space. You see your ship launch, and like a few seconds through clouds, and you just out in space. I'm like, that just feels good. And then even just the act of being in space, just maneuvering around and using that boost and flying through debris and scavenging, it just feels really good. Like they've nailed that, and it's wild because I think the reviews have all been pretty not middling. Like, I think on Metacritic it's sitting like,
it's like 76, 77 around there,
which is really good. Like, it's not a game of the year.
It's lower than you expect for a Star Wars.
It's lower than you expect, but it's not bad.
No, not at all.
But all the discourse you see on like social media is like, like Ubisoft, a classic Ubisoft game, it's terrible. But every single person I know who's playing the game absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So it makes...
a lot of the critiques I see are so nitpicky. They're like, the water rendering is like not great. I'm like, I'm speeding across these maps with my speeder, and that feels infinitely better than looking at the water. You know? So...
But I mean, it's wild because I think... in my head I go, like, shame, this game's been critically panned. I'm like, but every single person I know playing this, and a lot of people absolutely loving it, this game will get a sequel. I'm convinced. Like, I'd love to see...
I'm pretty sure it will.
I'd love to see the sale numbers, and I'd definitely play a sequel. Like, they'll take the 100%. Lessons from this game, make a better sequel, I'd hope. But
I do think that the one criticism I saw from, I think I was watching SkillUp's review, which is like a 40-minute review, very extensive. He kind of falls in the same camp as us, where he's like, totally see how this game is like put together, can see the stitching in the background, the shortfalls, but still having a good time with it. But he did make a good point in that Ubisoft Massive, the lead developer on this game, are the same people who did The Division, which is widely considered one of the best feeling third-person shooters of all time.
Yeah.
So what happened here? Because that's definitely not what that feels like.
Yeah.
So like, if they're given the chance to maybe look at this again and refine it, I would hope that would be a big point of focus. And I could see it like being a lot better in that regard. Like, similar to how we saw big jumps in quality between like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. This is like a proof of concept. How does this open world Star Wars work? And I can see them coming back to it with fresher eyes and it being like phenomenal a second time around.
Yeah. I mean, I've got problems with it too. And it's like, it's obvious. Well, not obvious, but like looking at it now, you'd wonder, how did this not get flagged as like a design problem? Like, I get the emphasis on so you've got a blaster that you can modify with a lot of cool things. You can get different modes, you can buff it, or, it's got different, you can shoot normal blaster mode, you've got like an electricity mode, an explosive blaster, like that's cool, I get that. But it just baffles me that you pick up another weapon and any other fraction of an action you do makes you drop it. which doesn't make sense.
That's quite annoying.
It's like, I've got this cool weapon. I punch someone, I drop my weapon. I'm going to go climb,
I
drop
a ladder,
this weapon.
drop the weapon.
I go through events, I drop this weapon. You think, like, could there not have been a concession to just keep a secondary weapon? Like, it's got limited ammo anyway. Why am I dropping it?
That's exactly it. It's so limited in ammo that keeping it, I don't think, like, imbalances the game. It's not like you suddenly got a sniper rifle for the rest of the game, you know?
And I mean, even then, you think, well, not you, me. I think Star Wars. Like, if you think of any weapon in Star Wars, it's a blaster. It's going to shoot a red laser beam or a green laser beam. But all the weapons you pick up here, they sound different, they feel different. Like, shit, they actually did a good job of making these other weapons cool to pick up. But then you barely get to use them, which it just baffles me. That, like, I get it, they want you to use your blaster, and I love using the blaster, don't get me wrong. But to like yank it away from me at every moment, it's like, why? Who signed this off? Like, who thought, this is the way forward, we have to do it like this?
It's a bit of a bummer because you can see the clear inspirations of this game. Like, Uncharted is a big one.
Yeah.
And Uncharted is basically that. You're juggling weapons constantly. Like, Drake always has a pistol, you know, and the pistol always... I think the base pistol always has ammo.
It's infinite ammo.
But like, you can pick up...
clips? Don't know.
Who knows? They're in his boots, they're in his scarf, you know, they're everywhere. But you can pick up any enemy's weapon and, you know, for the most part... you don't usually have a chance to keep that weapon for the entire level because the ammo is limited, and you can pick up enemies' ammo to keep going with it, but they don't all have the same weapons. So juggling between those weapons is part of the combat, and I think it is a missed opportunity here for sure. Because, like, picking up the blasters from the stormtroopers, those things feel and sound great. There must have been a ton of work that went into them, but you barely get a chance to use them. So again, it's just things that I think could be refined in a sequel, for sure. Yeah. Because they've established a really good base here.
100%. I mean...
And I'd love to see, like, the cartel stuff expanded upon.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a cool game.
Yeah. It's flawed, but still good.
100%. Yeah. I will give this... I've had a much better time, not overall, but in the open world here than I did in, like, Final Fantasy Rebirth. I think... This understands open worlds a lot better than that game. Even though I'm not saying Star Wars Outlaws is a better game than Rebirth before people come at me for that. But in that aspect, it is definitely a lot better.
I have to edit that just to say that Star Wars Outlaws is better than...
Listen, it's close. You know, I'm not the biggest Rebirth fan. But I mean, in that regard, I think it just shows, like, how a open world can either, like, further lock you into a world or detract from that world, depending on its design.
You're 100% right. I mean, one word I threw around a lot on our like review in progress episode is, I said it felt organic, and it is agree. That it's because you can pull open the map and there's a few icons, but it's not that Ubisoft bloat, right? And even just picking up missions and stuff, like it's you can go get contracts, I get it, but often you'll just go have a conversation with a random person, or you'll overhear a conversation, or you'll pick up a data pad and then goes, like, it's a rumor, there's a stash behind a waterfall. I'm like, that's like a cool little side thing I can go do, and it fills my journal normally, but it's not just this, you know, it's this mission marker, like you're picking up a mission and it's a fetch quest. It just feels like I'm living in this world and I'm engaging with it how I want to engage with it. I don't have to go climb towers to, you know, unlock the map. I can go wherever I want for the most part from the get-go. It like, more open worlds could actually learn a lot from the design of this open world, I'd say. And you're right, 100% right. Like, as much as I love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the open world, like, I get it. It was just very by the numbers, you know, go unlock a tower, go kill those beasts, do whatever. Wrong. Don't do that for the next game, Square, please. Yeah. This is 100% better in that regard. So, yeah.
It's pared back. It's a bit more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to edit you to say that it's, you know, you're basically saying Rebirth is trash.
Rebirth is trash. Yeah, just hard cut to all my words. Rebirth, bad game. Worst game ever played.
But you're right. The organic feel is super cool. Like, I love coming across data pads that tell me how to cheat on the like horse races. I just think like, despite the fact that I don't get anywhere near as many credits as, you know, that's even like logical now, it's still fun to feel like I've outsmarted everyone else here because I found information that seems like illegal. And, you know, the little mini games interspersed around it are just really fun as well. Like Sabak has become like an absolute addiction for me in the same way that Queen's Blood became an addiction for me in Rebirth. So
I must say, Sabak, like I've played a bit, but I'm not as into it as you and Jeff are. I should go back and play. And Mick, I think Mick is also big into it.
Absolutely love Sabak.
It's so funny because when I remember when I started playing this game, you get to the Sabak tutorial, and I think I must have been very tired because it was just like a lot of text explaining the rules. But it's funny because the game's actually not that complicated. It's really not.
No, not at all. It reminds me of like a mix of like blackjack and poker because it is just like very limited things you can do in a turn, but you're also trying to suss out like, is my hand strong enough to beat the other hands? And sometimes there's a balance of like going for the best hand possible or just being like, if I have a Sabak, that's already good because even if I lose, I won't lose as badly. So it's a real risk and reward type of balance. And I think for a card game, that's perfect. It's the same with Queen's Blood. I find are you overextending or are you actually thinking smartly about what is a safe play? You know, it's good. It's good. I'd play Sabak in real life if there was a robot on the table. For sure.
What's cool is that Sabak, I don't think is complicated enough that it can't exist in real life. Like
absolutely not.
It's just a thing of dealing, and you know, I'd like a robot to do all of that.
I mean, it makes the game flow a lot easier. But you're right. I think a Sabak deck with the dice and the little shift tokens, 100%, that could be a real game. And it's quite breezy. Rounds are quick. The games don't last that long, so. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. And all the little arcade machines that you come across, all of those games are pretty fun as well. Good.
It's just, again, leans into that aesthetic of, you know, what. It's funny because Star Wars is a product of its time, right? Like when Luke's out there destroying the Death Star, what interface does he have in that ship? It's some god-awful 80s computer interface. But they lean into that for this game, and you can find arcade machines through the world that have games just with that look and feel, and they're actually really fun. Like just quick little distractions, real good.
It's not the pristine Star Wars that a lot of newer movies and especially games like, you know, I love Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, but it does lean into that. This is the ancient and very clean looking Star Wars. Like Outlaws is the grungy, like grungy, you said, 1980s look. And I think it works super well.
Yeah, I think it's the aesthetic that really sells it. Honestly, it feels like a Star Wars game. It again, sorry to go on it, but it just reminds me of watching the movies as a kid, thinking like, oh man, like think of this when on the Death Star, like just the sounds associated with them moving around in that armor, putting the boots, putting the weapons down. It just reminds me so much of that. They've nailed the sound design on that front. It's
100%.
So
like when an alarm goes off in an Imperial base, it is that ominous like horn that like sounds like a Doppler effect going in and out. It's good. It's 100% nostalgia, like you said. Like, you know, those sounds, and to see them recreated with such clarity is really cool.
And then last thing I'll say, Nyx, great, good boy, love Nyx.
10 out of 10 companion. The mini games with the food, super good.
They have no business being as wholesome as they are, pun intended. It's
so good.
And again, like, we're going to wrap this up now, but when I saw the gameplay, Star Wars has a thing as well where I think it's almost mandatory to include some other sidekick or cameo, to the point where I saw Nyx, I was like, don't force it, whatever. But I'm eating my words. I'm like, thank God that Nyx is in this game. Like, really great addition in terms of gameplay and character. Like, Kay and Nyx are such a cool duo that work very well. And
I mean, Star Wars, like you said, does it well. It's like Cal Kestis and BD1. Like, there's always a cute alien or a cute robot, and they are so far nailing that in these games. Like, I would love a Nyx plushie. That would be rad.
I think I was just on because it's like, you're meant to be, you know, you're the scoundrel doing shit in the underworld. It's like you're gonna make it a bit cutesy, but it works. Like, they've got a good. I mean, even their relationship is like part of the story, you know, part of her character, Kay's character. It's
and
good.
I kind of love how active Nyx is. Like BD1 with Cal Kestis kind of just sits on his shoulders because like you have to, because that kid is just flying through the air and doing wall runs and whatever. But like when you're climbing, Nyx is on your back, but as soon as you get on a perch, jumps off your back, runs around, is like a very alive companion. Sometimes just chills in an area to try and kind of show you that there's something here that you should be like focusing on. So it feels like a companion as opposed to just set dressing for someone that gives you healing stims, you know what I mean? So
no, I get you.
Yeah, it's great. Outlaws is just, it's good. Flawed, but fantastic. Yeah.
I agree.
Last little thing I guess is just Concord, mostly because like last time we spoke, I'd played it. It had just come out. It is now 2 weeks later, and that game is gone. Like absolutely, just shut down, offline. Wild. May come back at some point. May never come back. My money's on it never coming back. To be entirely honest, just a wild thing to happen.
So if you don't know the news, it's Sony have basically just announced that they're ending all support for the game. It's just going offline. They literally
it is offline already.
Is it offline? Yeah. Sorry, look at the date. It's just been yanked offline, which is
just gone wild. Refunded. Everyone refunded.
It's just wild to me that you would. I suppose it makes financial sense to kill it rather than support it with servers, whatever. But it just still baffles me that it felt a bit rash, but maybe not. Like, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
I think the numbers must have been super bad. I mean, everyone was latching onto those numbers on Steam, which were just one platform. But like I was saying when I was playing it, I was like, I'm already running into matchmaking issues, as much as some people say that's not a thing. The matchmaking for the main game mode was like almost impossible. And from the days after we recorded that, it just became progressively worse and worse as fewer people were playing. So, I don't think they could have realistically supported that going forward and expected the tide to change without something drastic. So, I don't know. Maybe they go and relook at how... Because I don't think the game is bad. I just think it's not... There's nothing going for it that's entirely unique or exciting. I think the gunplay is really great, but just having good gunplay doesn't mean a lot of people are going to play it. There's loads of games that, do that at their core and do a lot more on top of that. So I don't know. I just think there's so much scorched earth on this name now to kind of like try and relaunch it. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know. Like I'm with you, but it also just feels like such a waste when all this work's gone into it.
8 years of work.
Maybe there is something in. Like, I don't know what a free-to-play model looks like. Can you just put this on PS and it exists, or can you make it free-to-play and have microtransactions? Like, I don't know.
This is the thing. I think the monetization of it was 100% a contributing factor to it, struggling out of the gate, like $40 for it.
Yeah.
But I don't think just making it free-to-play is going to move the needle, really. There are so many free-to-play games now that just being free-to-play does not mean you are a success. You look at something like Marvel Rivals. I think Marvel Rivals already is facing an uphill battle in that it needs to steal mindshare from Fortnite and Overwatch and, all the other shooters in that regard. But it's got a name like Marvel behind it. So already you've got some brand cachet, that people want to play as all these characters they're familiar with. Like Concord coming in as a new IP, I respect we need more new IP, but this goes to show why so many companies are so scared of it, because this can happen.
It can, but then on the flip side, 2 weeks later you launch Astro Bot.
Yeah, it's true. It's such an odd space for Sony to be in, like to have this happen and then Astro Bot be like a massive game for the year. I think it goes to show that there were a lot of mistakes made by leadership of the past, like your Jim Ryans, that there was this massive push on Sony's side to do live service games, and they just took like a shotgun approach, like we are going to put so many out there that we only need one of them to stick to make this worthwhile. But then you had The Last of Us, which big name recognition, that didn't happen.
Cancelled.
Concord is now, for all intents and purposes, cancelled. You've got Jade Raymond's can you even name the game she's working on? Fair Game with the dollar sign in it.
Game.
Yeah, that game that got like one trailer and was like another extraction shooter. You've got Bungie doing Marathon. It's
no, you're right. Even
Helldivers was a surprise hit, but like even that has kind of like lost a lot of momentum.
100%. So to 2 points I'm going to touch on quickly. X-Defiant launched earlier this year. I played it. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a great shooter, great Ubisoft shooter. Am I playing it today? No, I do not have the time to play it.
They're already struggling. They're giving away free in-game currency to try and get people back in.
Exactly what I'm getting to is like, that game's really good, honestly. Like, and it's got Ubisoft behind it. Ubisoft, fantastic at supporting games. It feels good. It's a good game. Is it going to survive? I don't know. Like, it's just... And then Helldivers. I love Helldivers 2. I'd love to play more of Helldivers 2. And there is content coming out for it. Like, I know that there's been teasers of, there's a third faction coming. Is it coming? We don't know. It's rumors, whatever. All the people, like my core group of friends/work colleagues I played Helldivers 2 with, there was a trailer or a news article that came out this week about this mysterious third faction, and I shared it with them, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And there was just, everyone's like, like we kind of, Helldivers is done. Like, we've had our fun with it, and that's it. And
it shows people give Fortnite shit because they're like, oh, it's Fortnite, whatever, But there is an art to making these live service games continually compelling, and I think Fortnite nails that in so many respects. Like, people are still playing Fortnite every single day, and it's been out for years now, and it's not because it was first. A lot of people like to say, oh, it was the first one out the gate. That 100% gave it a head start, but if it dropped the ball for 2-3 seasons in a row, people move on very quickly.
That's not even fair to say that it was first out the gates. I mean, Apex came after, and I don't know what the player numbers look like now, but Apex is still very well loved and played by many people. Yeah, as is, true. I think Warzone, Call of Duty's Warzone is probably still played by a lot of people.
Yeah. And you've got games like Valorant that have made an impact. You've got now Valve with Deadlock. And sure, these are big companies, but it shows that stealing mindshare from other games takes something special and something big. A new IP that already from the get-go didn't impress people was never going to move the needle, and it is somewhat ridiculous that Sony didn't acknowledge that this was going to be a problem, and instead of trying to maybe delay and see if they could regroup and figure out a different way, they just put it out anyway. It's sad for the development team. It is worse on Sony to allow this to happen.
It must be so crushing to have been on that team, honestly. Like, you work so hard and then this happens. Like,
especially because they'd been working on the game for 8 years, so already that's slightly problematic because they're chasing a trend over such a long period that the trend changes. But like, people, I hate seeing online when people are like, oh, Sony should have let the studio make what they wanted to make. They did. This is literally what they were making, and Sony purchased them last year because they saw Concord and were like, this will fit in our portfolio of games. No studio was forced to do this. It just was ill-timed and a bad trend to chase.
It's a bad business decision. You're right. Sorry, a trend. And not Sony buying the studio, not a bad business decision. Well, maybe if this is a game they're putting out. But it's just screams to me of, like, I can't even say this. I can't point the finger at Sony execs and be like, oh, like, look what they've done. What they could have done maybe is marketed the game more. So I feel like it was
100% was marketed super poorly.
It was kind of just like sent out to dial because it feels like there's no marketing. Oh, fresh coffee. Cheers. But it, in the same breath, for like devs in general, like, I know this game's been in development for 8 years, and I know game development is hard, and I have no clue how to make a game. But you have to wonder, like, is it not scary to launch a game like this in this not economy, it's the wrong word, in this environment,
this
landscape with all these existing shooters? It's the same thing. I feel it reminds me so much of when Dota and League of Legends were like the thing. Millions of people playing them, and millions of people still do. But remember how many companies tried to make a MOBA? How many of those MOBAs still exist today? None. Like,
how many companies tried to follow the success of Hearthstone? Valve tried and it didn't work.
Gee, I mean, Valve did RTV. You think, oh my god, it's Valve, it's a Dota 2 card.
It's Valve and it's Dota. It's like fail? Two of the biggest names in the industry, and it's still failed. Yeah, these things are a risk.
It's wild to me because I think it's different for Concord, because if you've worked in for 8 years, it's difficult to let it go. Like, I can imagine how horrific you must be to be like, it's not going to work. We have to cancel it after 6 years. Like, you kind of have to see it through. But it's just sad to see that this is how it's happened now. Like, it's done. I don't know.
In this industry, hard, being good is not enough. Like, if you are aiming for the Fortnites and the War Zones and the games that are really, people are coming back every single day to play, you need to be so exceptional to, like, really convince people to stop playing them, that just being a good feeling shooter is nowhere near enough.
No.
Apex nailed it because they were like, look at this, we're a 3v3 game with high mobility, because Fortnite didn't have a lot of that at the time. Also, we have none of this building bullshit, which Fortnite was primarily focused on 100%. At the time. It set itself apart enough that people gave it a good chance. And it had no marketing behind it because it just like shadow dropped. And, that alone is a marketing play in itself. Concord was like, first trailer was this very B-grade Guardians of the Galaxy vibe with a 15-minute cutscene and this focus on an evolving story. That people aren't going to show up for that in a live service game. It was just bad from the outset, I think.
But even to go back to your Apex example, like, even over and above the fact that it was a 3v3 first-person shooter or whatever, they introduced so many new ideas to the Battle Royale that became standard across everything that followed it. Like, remember, before Apex, we had PUBG. PUBG was really good, don't get me wrong. I love playing PUBG. But fucking confusing. If you dive into the game for the first time, it's like, cool, I pick up this weapon. What scope can I attach to it? What ammo does it use? Apex
very obscure and obtuse.
Apex went, you know what? You pick up a gun, you pick up this attachment, it auto attaches. There's different tiers of attachments. You literally pick them up and it auto attaches. One of the cuckest things about a battle royale is if you die early, can't respawn. You know, it's the first person to introduce respawns. Apex.
Oh yeah, like, you're right. Yeah, the ability for your team to respawn you.
No, how many? Fortnite has taken, it's funny because Apex bounced off Fortnite, and then Fortnite's taken a lot of inspiration from Apex in a lot of different things where you can now respawn in Fortnite. Fortnite No Build was like a limited time mode. Now it's its own thing.
It's an inflection point for that game, in my opinion. I think people were bouncing off that game because of the building, and that was a smart move.
They realized, like, shit, maybe the building's cool, but it's putting a lot of people off. Let's just not have building. Look where they are,
because it's such a high skill ceiling. So
so the point I'm trying to get is, like, Concord can exist, fine, but like, what is its thing? Like, what? I don't know. Like, I can't tell you. I don't have the magic answer. I think the reason these things stand out, it's because people come up with things that we've never thought about before. Like, the simple example of respawning in a battle royale was like a non-existent concept, and somebody at Apex went, let's do that, and it seems so natural now.
It's also just like, Concord is a $40 game where all you're doing is playing team deathmatch and control.
Yeah, there's nothing insane to set it apart.
These are modes that are given for free on other games, like Destiny's PvP, or other games don't even feature this, because like the idea of team deathmatch being a big player in today's landscape is like non-existent outside of Call of Duty and Battlefield. And even in Battlefield's case, it's not enough anymore. So it's just ill-conceived. It's a game that needed to come out like 6 years ago. It's a problem.
Sad, super sad.
That's why I think fundamentally it's not coming back, because those are such core issues to the game that you don't just come back and be like, Concord's free to play, now it's going to make a splash. Like, you saw that this week or this month with Foam Stars going free to play. I had no fucking clue that game was not free to play. Oh my god, there's a catcher. And like, did that make you want to jump into Foam Stars? It's not enough. It's not enough. So it's not that simple a solution, and I can see Sony just being like, cool, sunk cost fallacy, we might just take our own hint here and just not bring this back. And I think the people that are going to suffer there are what is the studio called? It's not Fire Sprites, it's Fire something.
I feel sorry for them because it's like Sony bought them, but does Sony now go, we're going to close you?
I could see it. And that's, so it kind of also makes, there's a lot of people like taking some pleasure in, dancing on the grave of this game. But we as an industry also then when studios close go, this is ridiculous and like we should be supporting developers and this and that. You can't have it both ways. Like if you're going to make fun of Concord for failing, then you must also accept that this is going to cost people their jobs. And Concord didn't fail because people made fun of it, sure, but we need to be a bit more, I think, sensitive to the complex issues around why it failed and how it's going to impact real people.
Yeah.
Because I think it will. I definitely see problems at that studio now. Yeah. Unfortunate. Really unfortunate, but it shows the harsh realities of this industry and just how, we keep saying we want new IP. This is why new IP is so risky. Anyway, that's it's been a lot of games and they are not slowing down. This end of stint September and October are absolutely stacked. We were just going through a list before the show started, and I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks there are a good 4 or 5 games that I'm very excited to play. So
this is also the first time we've had, and it hasn't been a weekly episode, but I think we did an episode 2 weeks ago. So
that's correct. It's
product of the time.
There's
so
stuff
many
to
games.
play. Stuff to play, and I think that's going to probably continue throughout this busy season because just this month there's like Plucky Squire and Frostpunk 2 and Zelda and continued thoughts on Astro Bot and stuff like that.
Astro Bot.
There's a lot to play, and it's
real
great.
Soon. I'm going to inhale that game.
I'm very keen to get started this weekend. So that's been episode 256. Is that correct? Yeah, 256 Checkpoint Chat. As always, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you showing up here whenever an episode goes out. And we hope you are enjoying this busy period of game releases as much as we are. Until the next episode, which I'm pretty sure will not be too far away, stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.